Hey everyone, this is the Millionaire Hippies podcast with your host, Boom Shikha, where we chat about spirituality, business, and health. We all want to live self-actualizing, fulfilling lives with joy, prosperity, and gratitude. Let's go on this beautiful journey together.
Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast by Boom Shikha. This is the Millionaire Hippie podcast. And I am again so grateful that you guys are listening. I've had a bunch of new listeners message me and tell me how great the podcast has been for them. They've learned a lot from it, so thank you so much. In this episode, we'll be speaking specifically about procrastination. Our big bad monster. The big bad monster that affects all people on this planet, no matter who they are, no matter where they live, and no matter how successful they are. Doesn't that actually make you feel a little bit better knowing that every person on this planet goes through this monstrous habit where everyone, no matter how successful they are, or no matter how rich they are, or what they've accomplished with their life, still deal and battle with this monster every single day? And that's what I want you guys to remember as we go into this episode, that you are not alone, and neither are you a failure or a loser for experiencing procrastination. In fact, everyone does, so you're basically normal, which is a consolation, I think, right? The reason I wanted to speak about procrastination today was that I believe, the more that I've been noticing myself, meditating, doing all that stuff, that procrastination actually is a necessity sometimes for our brains so they can play and they can gather information so they can go into the work phase, the actual work phase, with a lot of great ideas and a really calm mind. So stay with me here. So for example, today I decided that I'm going to record a bunch of podcasts. And I always note down ideas for podcasts through the week because I know that I need to record them at the end of the week. I try to do them every Friday. And I upload a new podcast every 2 days. I try every 2 to 3 days, right? And so I have a long list of podcast episodes that I want to record. But usually what happens is that when I actually start talking about something completely different comes out of my conversations with all the different people, or all the books that I'm reading, all the blog posts that I'm creating. So in fact, when I start recording and I hit record, I start speaking about something completely different, completely unrelated to any of those lists that I've created, which is fine with me. But then I wonder to myself, where is that coming from, right? And why did I have to actually, before recording these podcasts, sit down and browse through Facebook or browse through some blogs that I like or go through an Instagram feed? Why do I need to do these things? Even if it's just for 10 minutes, a lot of times I'm going to go record some podcasts. And instead of recording the podcast, instead of hitting play on Amadeus, which is the software that I use, instead of doing that, what I'll do is I'll go to Facebook. It's as if it's an instinct inside of me that's telling me, how about you just take 5 minutes or 2 minutes to go on Facebook, browse through some stuff, and that will kind of give you not only your brain a little bit of a break, so you can start off fresh, but also it'll give you some ideas so that when you go into recording a podcast, you have all of this juice to work with, all this creative juice to work with. Now, I know a lot of people think of Facebook or social media in general as a complete waste of time, and it is if you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours on it and not doing any creative work at all. I think it is a complete waste when you are not creating anything at all. If you are balancing out consuming content on all these social media sites with creating content on all of your sites, all of your Facebook, all of your Instagram, whatever it might be, if you're creating as much as you're consuming, or even better, if you're creating more than you're consuming, then that is not a waste of time. In fact, I think if you're creating so much, you probably need to go on all of these social media feeds in order to get that material that you can use in order to create. So that's the reason I named this episode Procrastination as play and necessary. Because I really think the more I've been creating, the more I've been doing this kind of stuff, the more I've been realizing the need for that stint of procrastination. Now, the procrastination I do is really there's a boundary to it. I know I'm going to only do it for a certain amount of time, so it's timed for sure, and it's limited because I know that I can only go to these 2 sites, and then I have to come back to my work. And if I don't, which is very rare, that means that I'm actually procrastinating in a way that is not useful to me, right? A lot of times, before I do some creative work, especially something really big, like creating a course on muses that I just created and put on Udemy, or recording a bunch of podcasts, what I'll do is I'll go for a walk around the city. So I'll go for a long walk, an hour, 2 hours long. And a lot of people might look at that and think, oh man, she's just procrastinating. She's not actually doing any real work. But as I walk, my brain is thinking over stuff. It's mulling over ideas. My body is relaxing, and I'm getting all these health benefits from walking. I know philosophers back in the day in Roman and Greek times would go for long walks in order to realize and really mull over all the different ideas and thoughts that they were having. I feel like that's one of the best ways to procrastinate for me and for a lot of creative people, where instead of going on social media, if you just go for a quick walk around the block, it helps you so much, because not only do you get all these images coming at you as you're walking, but you're feeling great, your metabolism's increased, there's more oxygen coming into your brain because you're walking and you're breathing a little bit harder perhaps. All of these amazing health benefits. So I'm procrastinating, but I'm actually procrastinating in a way that's actually necessary and actually is play to me. I love exploring the city by walking, and as soon as I start walking, I feel so happy, I feel joyful, I feel excited. It's amazing. It's just the best time of my life. So I do that kind of procrastination as a sort of play, and also it's necessary for me, because then I come back to my work. I come back to recording my podcast or recording my course or whatever it might be, and I am in the zone. I can go for an hour straight using the Pomodoro method and not even take a break because I am in the zone. And I needed that procrastination to get into the zone. So that's the reason I'm saying sometimes you have to really be aware of the labels that you're putting on yourself as a loser because you procrastinate, or you're lazy because you procrastinate, and all that stuff. And you have to watch yourself, because sometimes all the stuff we're doing it by instinct because we need to do it, because our creative self needs to do it. It's not because we're doing it because we're lazy or because we're trying to procrastinate because we don't want to do the work. I want to record these podcasts. I love recording them. They're so much fun for me. Then why am I going on Facebook? There's an instinct that is driving me to go check Facebook for 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes and come back to recording the podcast. Because when I come back, I'm energized and I'm able to do these podcasts with so much energy and so many ideas in my head that they come out really well. If I don't do that, if I'm really strict with myself and I don't allow myself that time to play and to explore and to do all that, then I come back and perhaps my podcast will be a little bit dry. It won't be as exuberant, it won't be as vibrant, because I haven't fed all those images into myself in order to create this podcast. I hope that you guys are seeing what I'm saying. So this applies to everything else you're doing. Procrastination can be seen and labeled either as something that you're doing because you're lazy, or you can label it as something that is necessary for your creative juices to flow. And I really think that labeling or perception or marking things down as good or bad really changes the way you look at things. The quote by Wayne Dyer, the way you look at things changes the things that you look at, is so true. So how about we start looking at procrastination differently? How about you start looking at it as a necessity, as something that's awesome for us? It's actually good for us to procrastinate. It's going to help us become better creative geniuses. It's going to help us become better at our businesses, whatever it might be. If we kind of start labeling procrastination in the opposite way or in a different way, in a way that actually makes it seem like a necessity, then maybe we won't resist it so much. And then when we procrastinate, we'll be able to come back right away because we know that we're just doing it in order to gather images and in order to get the juices flowing. We won't feel this tug to procrastinate for hours on end. And if we do, then we'll take it perhaps as a sign that our body needs to rest today. Let's just procrastinate all day long and take a rest and chill on Netflix and do all that stuff. And then tomorrow we can come back to it with a fresh mind, a fresh brain, a fresh creative sense, and start anew. Perhaps that's the way we start looking at it. And when we change looking at procrastination in that way, perhaps it's not going to be a bad thing anymore. We don't have to berate ourselves for procrastinating. In fact, we can start congratulating ourselves because we're doing the right thing. We're letting ourselves play. We're letting ourselves do the necessary thing, which is procrastinate so we can come back to our work with astonishment and wonder and just joy. I hope this makes sense to you guys. I hope that you enjoy this podcast and let me know what you guys think of it. I'm always looking to hear feedback. You can email me at boomshikha@themillionairehippie.com. I'll talk to you guys the next time around. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening. Go check out my website at themillionairehippie.com if you want more free, awesome content. If you really like the podcast, please consider giving me a 5-star review on iTunes. Until next time, namaste.